You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm Stephen Cabral, and today I get to share with you some of my Ayurvedic medicine training. I'm really looking forward to this show. I love Ayurvedic medicine. I don't talk about it enough, and I really should. That's because out of everything I studied all over the world, if you were to look for one system of medicine, like which system of medicine is the most complete? Now, of course, we live in a great day and age where we get to combine, which is what I do, every different practice imaginable. But if we could only pick one, it is Ayurvedic medicine that truly holds the truth. It really does. It's not a simple form of medicine to study, but I recommend that any health practitioner listening right now begins to study Ayurvedic medicine. It will take time, but it is absolutely worth it. And so one of the things that I discovered, which I found truly interesting, was tongue diagnosis. So this question actually came in from Jessica J, and she wrote, "Hi, Dr. Ball. Yes, please, would you talk about tongue diagnosis?" So, because I answered this on a previous show about scalloping of the tongue. And so I'm happy to answer that question for you. And this one really deserves its own show. And I would give no credence at all to looking at your tongue and diagnosing your body. Literally, that type of stuff seems like, I don't even know, like out of fairy tales. But I'm telling you right now, it started to make sense for me because when I was at my worst, when I was most sick, my tongue was absolutely deplorable. I mean, it was gross to look at. Some days it would be yellow. Some days I would have a brown coating on it. Some days white. All of the edges were bumpy. There were actually patches that looked like they were missing, and I had a big line down the middle of my tongue. It was absolutely horrifying, and my parents had no idea what was wrong with me. Very, very disturbing. And of course, American medical doctors, they've never seen anything like this. I don't know what it is. They just said, oh, it must be, I don't know, something growing in your mouth, just scrape it off. It's just not the truth. And then you start to actually look at human physiology. And just from human physiology, you can say, well, your tongue is actually the top of your digestive system, right? That just makes sense. We put food in our mouth. Our tongue helps with many different facets of the mouth and the chewing process itself. And it is the top of that 18-inch esophagus, basically, where food goes into the stomach, which is attached to your stomach, and then to your intestines. It's no wonder that the tongue will show us a lot about how our internal workings are actually working. Again, there's skin diagnosis, which is amazing. There's hand. There's all sorts of different things. I look mainly at face diagnosis. I look tongue diagnosis, and I look at the eyes. So it's not all I use, obviously. That's a 2-minute assessment in my office. It is part of a 60 to 90 minute consult, whether you're doing this by Skype with me, that's why I like video, or whether you're in my office. So I want to teach you about this today because, again, I was in India. I was in India many times. I was in Sri Lanka. I studied with the best of the best Ayurvedic doctors. That was by plan. That was by design. I said to myself, if I'm really going to get my naturopathic doctoral degree, if I'm really going to make it official and help people, not just from a nutrition standpoint and a health, wellness standpoint, but really help them with the worst of the worst diseases, I want to know it's going to work. I want to study with the best, and I want to work and live, which is what I did, live side by side with the patients so that I could see if they were truly getting well or not. Amazingly so, when you're at these top level clinics, when you're working with top level doctors, people get well, and they get well from the most insane and deplorable diseases that you can really think about. It does happen. So don't let anyone talk you out of it. So let's get into the tongue though today. All right. So when you look at your tongue and you stick it out of your mouth at the mirror, and if you're driving, listen to this, of course, try not to do that in your rearview mirror until you're stopped. So the tip of the tongue all the way to the back correlates when you look at acupuncture, so Chinese medicine, when you look at Ayurvedic medicine, always correlates to certain parts of the body. So the tip of the tongue specifically correlates to more of the neck area or the head and the brain. And then as we look at the left and right side of the tongue, right below that tip, the left and right sign correlate with as it moves down the body. So mainly like the shoulder blades and the lung area. And now when you stick your tongue out, what you see for your tongue on your left side, as you look at in the mirror, your left side in the mirror will actually be the mirror image of your right. So keep that in mind. Very, very important. I'm going to explain that right now. So as you move down, about midway down your tongue, again, on the sides right there, on your right side as you look in the mirror of that tongue would be your spleen. And on the left side would be your liver. And again, these are mirror opposites because if you were actually inside of your body, the actual right side of your tongue is your liver. But when you look in the mirror, it's reversed. Okay. So in between the spleen and the liver is actually the heart, and then it goes to the stomach, and then it goes to the pancreas. And then when you get to the back of the tongue, it's the colon and intestines, okay? And then beside that, in the very back, are the kidneys and then the reproductive organs, basically, okay? So now that's not as important, but I wanted to give you the kind of the breakdown of that. But what is important is sometimes when we get hot spots, they end up in certain areas, which is kind of strange. Sometimes we get that hot spot in the middle right side of the tongue. That's the most common area. Why would that be? Your liver. Your liver is predominantly a pitta-based organ in Ayurvedic medicine. That means inflammation-based. Pitta is characterized by inflammation. So now I want to get out of like the esoteric for a moment and give you exact examples. Okay, this is hard to kind of like piece together in your head, but all you have to do is go to Dr. Google and literally Google, go to the images and type in tongue diagnosis or Ayurvedic tongue chart, and you'll get some, beautiful photos. And you know what? I'll link up one on the show notes. So just go to the show notes page for today, which I believe today is episode 311. Hard to believe, but already 311 episodes. So just go to stephencabral.com/311 and I will attach some of those photos. Okay, so let's go through. There are 3 basic types of tongues, just like the constitutions in Ayurvedic medicine. And since traditional Chinese medicine is much harder to explain to people using dampness and all of those things, I'm going to explain it from an Ayurvedic standpoint, which I believe you'll be much more apt to get and to actually use, because that's what this is all about, usable content. And so the first thing we're talking about is the Vata-based tongue. Now, the Vata is characterized by the ectomorph. They are a little thinner frame, typically, a little bit more prone to anxiety. I'm not going to go into the whole body type, but the tongue can sometimes be a little shaky. When you stick out your tongue, it might shake a little bit. That shouldn't happen. Or it might be like stiff as a board. These can be nervous system-based disorders. They can be correlated with anxiety, with fear, with any of those things. A Vata tongue is also sometimes kind of long and thin, a little weak looking. That means you're more catabolic, more characterized by breakdown, weakness, okay? Sometimes in a Vata-based tongue, if you look under the tongue, it's very dark purple, or sometimes even on top of the tongue, it can be a little too dark purplish colored. And that can mean a lack of blood flow. And in Chinese medicine, they call it qi deficiency. I did study in China. I studied traditional Chinese medicine. I prefer to use an Ayurvedic-based standpoint to give you this information, and also for myself as well. Oftentimes in the tongue, we see teeth marks, or what looks like teeth marks, but they're the indents on the side of the tongue. That's called scalloping. That is not normal, and it is not from your teeth, okay? Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So typically it means malabsorption or weak digestion. They are one and the same. That means you are not properly breaking down your foods very well. Another thing you'll see in a Vata-based tongue is cracks. You'll see cracks, like literally these like little fissures or indents in the tongue. And a lot of times that can be colon-based issues, gut-based issues. Okay. So a crack down the middle is very common for a Vata body type or a Vata-based constitution at that time. Okay. And what that means is the Vata body type is characterized again by that high-strung nervous system, by usually some anxiety, by usually some type of nervousness or overstrained nervous system. All right, so there's a couple things to look for in the tongue. We're going to get more into the different coatings and color of the tongue in a moment. Okay, so the Pitta tongue. Now, the Pitta tongue is typically characterized by it's more red. So what should your tongue look like? That would help, right? I should probably tell you what that is. Your tongue should look pink, not too dark red and not white, just a very pink color. It should be nice and smooth and just a thin coating of saliva. No color, just nice coating of saliva. There should not be any real bumps to it. It should be nice and smooth. It should look beautiful. Just a really nice, healthy tongue. And you know a healthy tongue when you see it. A lot of dogs, a lot of animals, they have just this nice, clean, clear, pink tongue. Humans want that clean, clear, pink tongue for the most part as well. Now, there'll be different undulations on the tongue and things like that, but we're not talking about those specific things. We're talking about clear raised dots and red spots, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So The pit of tongue, again, darker red, characterized by inflammation, systemic inflammation all over the body, or at least in that digestive tract. Now, you get those hot spots. I was talking about that in a moment. So your whole tongue is pink, but now you have these dark red spots. One might be over the liver. Again, on the left side in the mirror, you'll see it, but your liver is right underneath your right rib cage, and that will correlate actually on the right side of the tongue. You might get on that opposite side, which is your spleen. Could be spleen-based issues. Let's say you have mononucleosis, or you have Epstein-Barr virus, or you have something like that, herpes, and the spleen might be overactive at that time. Your heart, stomach right in the middle, you might have a red dot right there for cardiovascular-based inflammation. It might be in the lungs, so the very front of the tongue on the sides for bronchitis or some type of respiratory inflammation. Sometimes you get little white bubbles there as well that pool there. That can be that same type of congestion. Dampness there is what they would call it in traditional Chinese medicine. Sometimes you'll get a yellow coating with a pit of tongue. That can be a liver-based issue or a yellow tint, always correlated with the liver, always correlated with pitta as well. And oftentimes you'll see that hot spot in the very tip of the tongue. The tongue can sometimes be even pointed at the very end, like an extra point that would be normal. And that can oftentimes be a thyroid-based issue. Now remember, never use your tongue just as the only diagnosis, but it's a place to start, and why not have a place to start? And I'm telling you, I'll do more about the iris, I'll do more about the skin in general in the future if you like these type of topics, but it's amazing. 7 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, there's a direct correlation, and that's a little too much to overlook. All right. The last part of the tongue diagnosis is going to be the kapha tongue. Kapha tongue, categorized by a swollen tongue, so a thick tongue, almost like it doesn't even fit in your mouth. That is congestion. It can be lymphatic congestion. It can be dampness. It can be cold when the tongue is kind of that whiter color. That is the kapha tongue. That is some type of coldness in the body, dampness in the body, mucus in the body, congestion in the stomach, okay? Bloating, those types of things. Okay, the teeth marks, again, that malabsorption, mucus production, whatever it might be. A lot of times there's a white coating with the kapha tongue, okay? The tongue looks whiter. Now, a lot of times when we talk about candida, this is really apparent, right? You have this thick white coating, especially in the back of the tongue. Why would it be in the back of the tongue? That's where the colon and the small intestines are. That's where candida lives. There's no coincidence here. This is the real deal. It survived 6,000 years of medicine for a reason. That thick white coating is known also by conventional medicine as thrush. It is a yeast fungal candida-based issue. You must use a natural anti-candida fungal protocol. Go to stephencabral.com/store. Find what you're supposed to use. I lay it right out there for you. I give you step-by-step my process, my protocol for how to eliminate it. And it's very important. It's different for children, so there's not a child-based protocol. If you ever need a child-based protocol, email us and I will get that to you. Okay. And the last part, very, very common, also with candida, but sometimes called psoriasis of the tongue. Not a coincidence. Psoriasis is typically a fungal and gut-based issue combined with other stuff, but that's the basis. It's called geographic tongue. This is literally when you stick out your tongue and it looks like there's like a rash on it, like someone literally took chunks out of it. It's disturbing if you haven't seen it before. And again, I had all these different things. Again, yeast-based, fungal-based, candida-based, all that. And again, all of this can be cleared up. Can you brush it off with your toothbrush? Nope, it comes right back. Can you use a tongue scraper? No, it comes right back. Again, this is not a tongue issue. It's an internal issue. So when you start to look at your body as something that's totally connected, right? That nothing is separate from anything else in the body. And you can move that, you can expand that to all the world around you. But let's just talk about you for right now. When you look at that, you can start to understand that the tongue is connected back to the esophagus, which is connected to your stomach, which is connected to your small intestine, which is connected to your large intestine, which then connects to the rest of the body as well. When you can start to see that, you'll understand that natural medicine is science-based. There is nothing voodoo, woo-woo, or witchcraft about this. This is the real deal. And if you use it and you combine it with state-of-the-art medicine, if you use natural medicine, naturopathic medicine, traditional naturopathic medicine, you combine that with functional medicine, I'm telling you, there's no limit to how well you can get. I was as bad as you can get. I really was. And the only reason I say that is because if I could get well, I have no doubt you can get well, you can lose the weight, and you can give yourself a better quality of life as you age. You don't need to be decrepit for the last 20, 30 years of your life. Somehow we've accepted that in society. I don't know why. I don't know how, but it's not the truth, and it doesn't have to be your truth, okay? You can get well at any age, and you can absolutely bring up your level of energy, your level of vibrancy, and the really enjoyment you get out of life. Today was a small taste of how you can look at one part of your body and start to understand the whole. So I really appreciate you for tuning in. I love this episode just because I love sharing Ayurvedic medicine. If you enjoyed it, let me know. Let me know that you like shows like this. Just go to StephenCabral.com/Ask Cabral. Give me your feedback. Give me your input. If you want more shows like this on face diagnosis, on nail diagnosis, on iridology, looking at your irises, I'm happy to help with all of those. So really appreciate, once again, you tuning in. And if you could please share this episode with anyone else you believe it would help. I honestly would really appreciate that, because it's not about me, it's about this message. And I want to get this message out to the entire world, and I simply can't do that as one person. I can only do it with your help. Thank you again. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing, and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.